For joining us, first of all, Secretary. This is a tremendously important subject, but it was interesting listening to you. I had a flashback to 1995 when you gave a speech that had got quite a lot of international attention on women's rights. But at the time, you couched that as a human rights issue. Now you're talking about this as an economic issue. Why is that? Do you think it's gotten siloed in its own space and you need to integrate it more? And secondly, do you also see it as a national security issue?
Well, Nina, first I think it's been an evolution. It was important and, in fact, necessary to state the obvious back in 1995 that women's rights are human rights and human rights are women's rights once and for all. And in large measure because in so many places in the world there were active forms of discrimination in law, in culture, in custom, and there had to be a very clear statement that women have the same rights to participate in their societies as men do. Now, once you establish what should be a very obvious statement like that as the ground truth, then you can begin to say, and what does that mean? How do you translate that? And certainly, you know, women have a right to go to school, women have a right to health care, but also women have a right to credit. Women have a right to, you know, fulfill their own economic potential. And one of the points that I wanted to make is that you think of men as political beings, as economic beings, as members of family, I mean, all the roles that men play. Well, women too. And I think the speech that I gave in San Francisco, which was really rooted in the facts, because it wasn't just an appeal to recognize women's economic rights because they were women, it was a recognition that our failure to do so is holding back economies. And that seems to me to be a sufficient impetus for people to do more. I also see it as a national security issue. The more women are empowered, the more women can participate. You see a growth in democratic forms. You see greater participation in all elements of society. And that, over the long run, is in our security interests, but also in other countries as well.
Do you get any, as an American official pushing this issue, is there any, do you have any concern, because not everybody approaches this like an American woman, for example. There are different cultures. How do you avoid that sort of stepping into what might be perceived as cultural imperialism and imposing our values on other societies?
Well, the thing about the Asia-Pacific region, unlike some other